Hey everybody, it is Tuesday, the 21st of April, and so this is going to serve as our number talk for today to kind of get us started on our lesson. What you guys can see if I zoom out here is I want to do a little bit of work with number lines because the things we're going to be working on today are going to be taking what we've learned with fractions and decimals and how we can name them coming from each other and showing where they kind of live on a number line. All right, so you can see here I kind of started out with 3 different number lines, and the first one I'm going to use is this one down here. And we've used number lines, you've used number lines since you've been in kindergarten and first grade. So the first one I want to show you is like, okay, so if we had a whole number line, let's back out here so you get the whole thing, right? So let's say I'm going from 0 to 10. Well, halfway in between 0 and 10 for my whole numbers is 5. And then I know that I'm going to have 1, 2, 3, and 4 on that side of 5, and 6, 7, 8, 9, and it gets me up to 10. So this whole concept that you've always worked with number lines for whole numbers is going to be what's going to kind of guide us as we get into fractions and decimals, because fractions and decimals, as you guys know, are not whole numbers. They are numbers that live in between our whole numbers. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to kind of focus on a number line that doesn't go from 1 to 10 with a whole number. I'm going to do a number line, and that's going to be our second one up here that I'll draw this arrow to, that starts at 0. That was really bad. Starts at 0, and all the way over here is going to end at 1. So instead of going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, I'm going from 0 to 1. Now, you guys already know from all the work that we've done that there's an infinite number of numbers as far as decimals and fractions that can live between the whole numbers, right? But just to kind of break it down a little bit easier, using the same idea that we did with our whole numbers is the same thing that we do when we start talking fractions and decimals between our whole numbers. So if I start at 0 and I go to 1, I can still break it down halfway. And again, that number that I'm going to put here, I'll do my fractions on the bottom. Well, that's 5, right? But it's not 5 whole numbers. Every one of our whole numbers can be broken into tenths. And so if I go halfway here for 5 tenths, you guys know, because you've been doing so great with your homework, that 5 tenths written as a fraction is 0.5 as a decimal. And just like we did with our whole numbers down below, I can break every one of my whole numbers into 10 tenths. And if this is 5 tenths, and if I want to work backwards, that might make it a little easier. The one right before 5 tenths is 4 tenths. Then I have 3 tenths, 2 tenths, 1 tenth, and then 0 would again be my 0 tenths, right? So there's my fractions, and if I want to name those fractions as decimals, well, how do I say it? 1 tenth. I know there's one number after the decimal in tenths, so that's 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, and I already did 0.5, okay? So just like our whole numbers, I'm just breaking them up into 10 individual parts, okay? Now I'm going to keep going. My fractions down below, 7 tenths, 8 tenths, 9 tenths, and then of course one whole is going to be 1 tenth. And if I want to change those fractions to decimals, tenth means I have one number after the decimal. So 6 tenths is 0.6, 0.7, 0.8, 0.9, and then 0.10, which is really 10 tenths, is one whole, right? Okay, so as I get through here, again, just to review, here's my whole number line, 1 through 10. Here's a number line that breaks down 0 to 1. So I'm only looking at this little part right here, okay? And in between this little part, I can break this into tenths, and that's what this number line looks like, all right? Now, I'm gonna blow your mind a little bit. Instead of looking at just this one part between 0 and 1 as whole numbers, for the third number line, I'm going to break this down here, and I'm going to look between 0 and 1 tenth, okay? So again, big picture here. Here's our whole number line. For the second one, I'm only going between 0 and 1, and that's what this is if I break it into tenths. So if I broke this into tenths and I'm looking in between 0 and 1 tenth, and again, I'm going to start here, and this is going to be 1 tenth over here. I bet you can already figure out that I'm going to break this into 10 more parts, but each of those tenths this time are going to be hundredths, okay? So Just like with our other number lines, we can go right in the middle, except this time it's not 5/10 anymore, it's 5/100. Okay. Again, I can work backwards and I can do 400s, 300s, 200s, 100th. Now that I have hundredths though, I always know if I'm changing that fraction into the decimal, there's got to be two numbers after the decimal. So one number or 100th is 0.01, 200s 0.02, 0.03, 0.04, 0.05, and if I keep going, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I got, whoops, 600ths, 700ths, 800ths, 900ths, and of course 1000ths is going to be my 1/10, okay? 0.06, 0.07, 0.08, 0.09, and then this is 0.10 or 1/10, because 10 hundredths is the same thing as 1/10. So again, let me zoom out here. Here's our big number line with whole numbers, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. If I go and zoom in right here to 0 to 1, that number line can be broken into 10 parts by tenths, and that's what this middle number line is, right? So even though it looks like it's the same size of it, this whole number line right here fits in right here. Okay, that's as big as it is. And then after every whole number, I can do this same number line here. I can do the same number line here. I can do the same one here. So I can keep getting other numbers in between all my whole numbers. So big number line, this one only fits right in here, okay? Now, this top one, even though this looks like it's the same size as all the others, that one only fits in right here between 1 and 1/10. So if I'm looking back on my main one right here, okay, here's 0.5, right? 0.1 is going to be like right over here. So that's where this number line lives, is right here in this section. This number line right here lives in this little tiny section right there between 0 and 1/10. And that's what this number line shows, is between 0 and 1/10. So imagine you can do this number line up here, this top one, in between every one of those tenths on a regular whole number line. So you can figure out there's a lot of numbers that we can squeeze in between. This isn't even all. There's like infinite amounts of numbers we can squeeze in there, all right? But the thing that you're gonna need to keep in mind for today is we're gonna be working with number lines and changing our decimals and our fractions back and forth like you guys have been working on. So that's our number talk to start the lesson for today. I actually have a video where we're going to go through the practice set together, and then you guys will have a homework sheet that you will do. It'll be just like the practice set, and you'll be able to kind of practice some of the things that you learned through the videos for today. All right, I'm going to shut this off and send it off to you, and I'll be back with my next video shortly.